Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kavita TV and in our series of soulful conversations. I am so excited for today's interview with Dr. Shefali Tsabary. I just am going to quickly introduce her formally and then tell you why I'm just so obsessed with her and her work. So Dr. Shefali Tsabary is an international speaker, clinical psychologist, and acclaimed author of the award-winning book, The Conscious Parent. She blends Eastern mindfulness with Western psychology, integrating wisdom from both traditions. And her first book, The Conscious Parent, has been endorsed by Oprah as one of the most profound books on parenting she has ever read. Now, that in and of itself is amazing. This book revolutionizes the parenting journey and allows us to transform our relationship with our children. She's also written Out of Control and her newest book, The Awakened Family. So welcome, Dr. Shefali.
Thanks, Kavita. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I have been following you for a little while here, and it is just, your work is so profound, and I'm just so inspired by the fact that you are leading with this message of going inwards and looking at the self when it comes to parenting and speaking in general, and using our children as a way to really see what is it that's coming up for ourselves and our belief systems and whatever we're bringing into that relationship, and going inwards and looking at what that is for ourselves. I think that is revolutionary, and I know Oprah has said in her 25 years she hasn't met somebody that has really embraced this message in the way that you have, and I see that. And in my own work, I see this over and over again because I work with women in relationships and helping them understand what was all of that belief system that was created when they were younger with their parents, and how do they start to release that for themselves so they can be way more open in love. So when I saw what you were up to, and I read The Conscious Parent because I'm wanting to be a parent soon, and so this episode is really for anyone. It's for you if you are a parent. It's for you if you are looking to be a parent. It's for you if you are clear that you don't want to have children. Because what we're talking about today is how to awaken the self and how to really go inwards around your life and allow your life to be this extraordinary experience. So my first question for you is, what inspired you to really begin this movement? What inspired you to support parents in this involvement with their children and within themselves?
Well, like you said, this message is for every single human being, but I've put it in the concentrated journey of the parent-child dynamic because I have seen as a therapist for 22 years now that it is very hard for people to change. However, if the teaching comes in the context of our children, there's a slightly greater chance that we may look at ourselves. You can leave your partner, you can leave a job, you can stop talking to a friend, you can live and work far away from your family of origin, from your mom and dad, but it's really hard to leave your child. So now this dynamic where there is no escape, one can hope that at least here you will unravel, excavate, and dig deep to figure out why something is not working out. So that's why I kind of package the message of consciousness and awakening into the parent-child dynamic, because I believe that if you can do it here, then you will be able to do it in every other relationship, because this one is the most quote-unquote intimate because it's now biological in many instances. And if it's not biological and it's adopted, say, at least then, or even then, it's extremely intimate because you're with this person from the moment they're born. Which other relationship can claim that? So now this relationship becomes the repository for every challenge that you did not take with the other relationships. This one becomes the holding place where you're called to look at yourself, where in the other relationships you said, I'm not doing it, it's too hard. Here there is no leaving, there's no exit door. So that's why this relationship becomes the most profound opportunity for the parent to see themselves, heal themselves, and to stop projecting all their unfinished business onto their children. Because that's what we're doing in all of life, right? We keep dumping everything on the outside and can't really claim and heal what's on the inside. So I use this paradigm to help parents to go inside and elevate. And I do find amongst all my clients, the parent will be the first to change because of their quote unquote intimacy and love and attachment to their children.
Yeah, I love that that's how you've kind of framed it, because I know I've used the parent work, which most of us don't want to be doing,
Yes.
in the space of relationships and relating and wanting, everybody wants to have this like profound relationship, or I call it soul level love, right? So I love that you've created, and you're right, the bond between a parent and a child is something that is out of this world. And you're right, you're not stuck. I don't want to say stuck, but it is something that you can't leave. I never thought about it that way, and it's true. And so that you're using that as a vehicle to go inwards and helping them do that. So when I look at, mostly work with women, so women that are also single moms, mothers, women in relationships, married. And one of the things that I often see is that when they enter motherhood, what starts to happen is they start to lose themselves in their child. And their world becomes their child's world. And I know that you even phrase it as like, are your children raising you, right?
Right.
And so what would you say? I think this is one of the reasons for why I personally have waited so long to have children, because I grew up seeing that even in my own mother, and I think she's a phenomenal mother, but I saw how much she had lived her life through us. So what is it that you would say to mothers? Because I know it's hard when they have a newborn and everything that they're doing affects that little being, so yeah.
It is hard, and it is the mother, for the most part, who stereotypically culture has made to be the constant caregiver, the one who is presumed to have the onus of leaving their career, for the most part, I'm talking about. So now this mother has a lot of stock placed in her identity as a mother. And so she shifts her identity from, an adult or an autonomous being. Now she's fused with this child who now she gets enmeshed with. And quite naturally, she loses herself, because the first early years of parenting, you'll see, is all about being there 24/7. You have to. And if you're not there 24/7, then you have guilt, you have exhaustion, you're trying to juggle career and parenthood. It is so difficult. So the mother goes through the ringer in terms of paying the greater price, I think. Having said that, I don't want to encourage victimhood or martyrdom here. They're not greater than. This is just something they have consciously or unconsciously chosen. So I try to help mothers go from unconscious victimhood or unconscious resentment or exhaustion into self-care, into consciously choosing this, into seeing that their staying at home with this baby is actually the accelerated pathway to their spiritual evolution. They're going to learn how to slow down. They're going to learn how to enter presence. They're going to learn how to play. Yes, these are things that culture doesn't put value on. You're not becoming thinner or richer or more successful. But wow, this is where the spiritual jewels lie. And if we can teach parents, mothers or fathers, to embrace this journey, not look at it as an inconvenience or as a stepping stone to getting your checklist, marked off, but truly as the entry point to the greatest spiritual depth that they will possibly ever encounter, and an invitation to heal all the past. If they frame it like that, then the edge gets off. Then we're not so exhausted. Then we're not so resentful of our partners. They get to go to work and we have to stay at home. We're not judging or comparing ourselves as if this was a race to winning a gold medal, who's the best parent. This now becomes a transformed experience of greater spiritual depth. The culture does not frame parenthood this way. And this is why we have burnout, we have marital problems, we have, postpartum depression, because the mother is left, in many first years, in many cases, identityless, right? Who am I? I was that. I don't know this being yet. I don't know this relationship. Now I don't have an identity. And then to an extreme, I fuse my identity now with my children, and who they are says a lot about me. All are unhealthy. How can we create a healthy interdependence and not an entangled codependence? So this is what I teach in my book, The Awakened Family, and how to raise oneself to one's most healed version of oneself. So this is the work. Is it hard? Yes, but rewarding? Absolutely. And completely generationally transformative.
Yeah, absolutely. I just see so many women kind of looking at what their mothers could not do for them,
Yeah.
right? Or did not do for them, and then are so vigilant around providing that for their children to the point of exhaustion almost for themselves, right? Or
Yes.
living that out within that relationship. And so, what are some ways? So, I hear what you're saying. The context through which to start to relate to your child is really that this is a journey for you to go inwards, for
Yes.
you to play, for you to connect with yourself even further. So
Mm-hmm.
when we have that frame
Mm-hmm.
of that this relationship is about that,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't get as entangled in trying to prove out what you didn't get through your own parents.
Or what you left behind in your career, right? So you left a PhD behind, or dentistry school midway, or whatever you left. You were aspiring XYZ, but you had to put it on hold. Don't make your child your next PhD, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. I have to do this one now. I have to prove something about my worth. It's a very natural inclination, but it's primitive. It comes from an unconsciousness, and it actually spirals the parent or the mother out of control, because you can never ultimately control your child. So now you're trying to have your child fill up a void in you that simply cannot be filled by anyone on the outside. So it's a self-sabotaging principle, and that's why many mothers are depressed and exhausted, because they're trying to do something that simply cannot come to fruition because the channel is the wrong channel.
Yeah, I love that. And so we're putting our channel on how is this going to be an inward journey versus, right? And that alone can shift a lot of the ways that we are relating to our children.
Correct. An inward journey, and a journey about self-care and creating boundaries. And if you can, soliciting care and help from the village around you, and really setting up your life so that you're not enmeshed in your identity as being a super mom. Because if you're a super mom, then you have to do everything, right? You have to make the cookies, you have to make the quilt, and you have to knit the sweater. So you've put so much pressure on yourself because you're getting a PhD, right? You're getting your worth from this being and from your role. This is the danger. And this is why we judge each other. That's why we're so hard on each other. And this is the greatest pitfall. But if we saw it as a spiritually transformative journey, we would understand that self-care is a big part of this, which means creating boundaries, soliciting support, not trying for perfectionism and super mommyhood, not waiting for a fantasy to be fulfilled, checking ourselves constantly as to where is my need coming from to be super mom. And when you relinquish that, and then you can go for a career, and then you can be at home, and neither will be amazing or perfect or super level, superhuman level, but they will at least be fulfilling on a very basic level. You won't put yourself under so much pressure that you're riddled with anxiety and exhausted at the end of the day and resentful of everyone around you. So mothers and fathers recognize that this is about them evolving and ultimately managing this very messy situation, because children are extremely messy and unpredictable. No more control.
Yeah.
So surrendering to that with grace, creating boundaries and self-care, not trying to be perfect, not in being enmeshed in your identity with your child, will actually lower the anxiety and allow your child and yourself to fly a little bit freer.
I love that. And the boundaries, I wanted to kind of dive into that for a second. So when you say boundaries, what do you mean by that? Because kind of the way that I am hearing that is, or what I see often is that also, parents will start to, how can I say this, become the child with their children as they get older, and because they have all of these belief systems that are coming up for them while they're parenting, and so the break in that sometimes has them become the child with the child, right? So then the child has to step into this place of parenting their parents, and I see this very often. So I'm guessing that boundaries has something to do with that. So what do you mean by boundaries?
Well, the first place boundaries can originate from, and the only place it can start from, is a true attunement to yourself, right? So if you don't know what's right or wrong, if you don't know why you're saying yes or why you're saying no, if you're eternally pleasing someone, or you're coming from a place of wanting to be liked, or afraid of conflict, or afraid of disapproval from your child, your spouse, your friends, it doesn't matter, then your boundaries are going to be very, very fluid and give off a confused message to those who are relating with you. And then you wonder, why am I being taken advantage of all the time? Why do people lie to me all the time? Why am I being betrayed all the time? Well, you are, because you're emitting an energy which says, walk all over me, or I'm in denial, or I'm going to look the other way, or I really don't know how to take care of myself. I just want to be loved, or I'm too helpless. Just love me. When we come from that need, we don't pay attention to our own self advocacy, our own self autonomy, and our self reliance. We're waiting for other people to do things for us. So, this is where the confusion first starts, and why people from the outside will keep challenging us to wake up. And how will they challenge us? By walking all over us, by betraying us, by lying to us, by stealing from us, because we don't have good boundaries, right? We don't know how to step away from toxic elements. We don't know how to say no to even a 2-year-old. We don't, not that it's lesser than being, but we cannot even say no to them, even though we should be. We don't know how to say yes and mean it. We say yes, but we lie. We say yes because we want something else, and then we're resentful when we don't get what we want. And we're like, why did I say yes? Why did you say yes? Because we're lying to ourselves. We're not in touch of our agenda and our needs. We put them on other people, and then when they mess up, we blame them instead of checking in to see our boundaries. So I not only teach parents to have boundaries, correct boundaries with their children, I teach them the difference between life-affirming boundaries for their children and ego-affirming boundaries for their children. What's the difference? And I talk about it in my book. And then I teach them how to have boundaries in life. Where are you coming from? Why can't you take care of yourself? Why did you lie at 10 o'clock in the morning to your friend who asked you for a favor and pretended that you had all the time in the world, and you said yes? And then at 2 o'clock, your child asked you for something else, and your intuition said, wait for the weekend. It shouldn't be, but you said yes. And then at 7 o'clock, you said yes to your partner. And then by 10 o'clock, you're a raving lunatic, right? Because you didn't check in, and you kept lying to yourself, putting yourself aside, thinking you're being a good person, or you're going to get love, or you're going to get a medal at the end of the day, and you didn't. You actually messed it all up. And this is so common, especially in women.
So what is an egoic, you just said an egoic boundary? Or
Yeah.
yeah, what is that?
So with our children, it's very clear with our children what are life-affirming boundaries and what are ego-affirming boundaries. So I divided to make it easy for parents. So life-affirming boundaries are what I can count on almost the palm of my hand. They are things that are truly in the service of our children living a sustainable existence on this planet, the way it is, not changing the planet, just allowing them to have a sustained existence. So self-care, right? Hygiene, brushing, bathing, being self hygienic, educated, right? Getting educated. Sorry, you got to read and write and learn some math somehow. You can do it homeschool, private school, Waldorf school, Montessori, doesn't matter, but don't set your kid up for failure, right? You got them into this world, educate them. So education. Then I believe connection with community and family are very important. Teach your child to be connected to who it is they are. Don't teach them to be attuned and have a voice and speak up, and then don't yell and shame them when they speak up against you. And the last one I would say is just to ultimately, not immediately when they're young, to start connecting to their interests, their purpose, their likes, their wants, so that they understand that they're sovereign beings. When these things happen in combination, and say they happen to 100%, you will 99% at least get an adult who is self-reliant, right? And who's self-worthy and who is self-satisfied. And then egoic boundaries are all the other things we parents do that we think are life-enhancing, but they're really not. Like sports, ballet, baseball, basketball, write in the perfect way. And how many parents do you know who've erased the sentences and like, do it again?
Yeah.
Or clean their room and make it spotless. Now, cleanliness and organization is good, but to what degree, right? You can be a crazy parent or you can be a completely messy parent. But how do you create organization without being crazy about it, right? Or negligent. So recognizing where the ego is playing in and where you're really serving yourself, or whether am I really doing this in the service of my child, then it's holy work, right? If I'm doing this in the service of my child and it's holy, then I'm going to teach you these skills. And organization comes under that of respect for the self and your voice. Then I'm going to hold the limit, be very clear, and I'm not going to confuse my child. I'm going to have good boundaries because now I've tapped into the holiness of this boundary, right? Just like if I had to give you medicine because you're terminally ill, I won't care if you had a tantrum. I won't care if you're with your friends. I won't care if you said that you're the worst mother in the world. I will tap into the holiness of that boundary and I will hold the limit. Parents can't do that because they haven't tapped into it. They haven't tapped into that sacred quality, so they're all over the place. The kid resists and the parent is like, oh, I can't do it. Then they become absolutely tiger momish about things that are completely irrelevant, and they create power struggles and then they create a disconnection. I'm not saying don't expose your kid to activities. Understand that anything that you impose on them that comes from you is coming from an agenda that's not necessarily in their highest service. So don't pretend like it is.
Yeah, I love that because so much of that clean your room, go to ballet, how many activities can we take you to prove that I'm a good mother?
Yes, yes.
Is so much from the space of showing the world that I'm a worthy mother, right? It's coming
Exactly.
from that place of perception of what others think of us as a mom versus
Or the pervasive anxiety we all have as parents of being left behind, of our children being left behind, because we carry that lack from our own childhood and we haven't yet found happiness or success. So we're like, oh, maybe I didn't do it well enough, or I didn't do it fast enough, or high achieving enough. So I'm just going to push my child because I have this anxiety that my child is not going to be happy at the end of the day.
yes. Hallelujah to that.
I know.
Right?
It's hard. Listen, it's very hard. We love them, and in this love, oh, I'm just writing a blog. It's right behind you. I'm going to show you what it says. It says love equals good parenting. It's time to rethink the equation, right? So we love our children so much, but in this love, we mess it all up because the love becomes enmeshment, it becomes control. It's really love for ourselves, not love for our children. And underneath love is anxiety. That's really ruling the roost in every parent-child dynamic. And if we don't tap into that and become sober and honest about it, we're going to create toxic relationships and generations of toxicity.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think one thing that I really want people to understand from this conversation is that some of this is generational, right? So when you actually start to relate to your children or any relationship in your life, right? Like in a moment, I do want to talk about if you don't have children, how do you relate to all of this, right? And what do you recommend, Dr. Shefali? So, but it is that when you break these patterns, you've literally healed not only yourself, but the karma of an entire lineage, of your entire lineage, So that's not to put like a whole lineage of pressure on you, but it's that level of freedom that you are embarking upon when when you're relating to your children in this way. So,
and just like you're saying, I'm not putting pressure, but also it's actually relieving pressure in some ways, because I'm showing parents like you do, it's coming down the pike. This is what you were born into. Now it's up to you to disrupt the pattern in this generation. Oh, it's okay. This is why we keep coming to learn, to learn, to learn. So it's actually in many ways also relieving. Oh, it's just coming from my three ancestors of pain, and ultimately it's pain. And the pain exists because of a deep separation from who we truly are, which is we are one. And we're all coming from one, and there isn't any greater or lesser. But because we're disconnected from that truth and we live in unworthiness and anxiety, this is where it all goes. And children come to show us, accept me as I am, accept me as I am. That's the fundamental place to start unconditional parenting. And the same with parents who don't have, women or men who don't have parents, who don't have children, the same thing. It's how do I accept my situation as is? How do I accept my life as is? Just like a parent is called to surrender to the trials as is with radical self and other acceptance. In the same way, how can a non-parent accept their life situation as equally worthy, equally abundant, and surrender to the as is. But culture has put so much judgment on a non-parent. I mean, you must have faced so many questions. How come you're not a parent? Don't you want to be a parent? You're selfish if you're not a parent. And it's hard on non-parents, Maybe nature did not allow it to happen easily. Maybe they consciously didn't want to continue the lineage of pain. Maybe it's just a lifestyle choice. Why are we judging each other so much? It again comes from shaming, that comes from lack of one's own life. So I teach non-parents especially, do not fall prey to this heavy, majestic, gigantic load of pressure that comes on you from culture, as if that a child is going to complete you. Because the problems we have in parenting is because we believe a child will complete us. They don't, and they should not. So if you don't need a child to complete you, hallelujah, don't need a child to complete you.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting how like the parallels are so clear between even partnership, right? Needing a child to complete you and needing a partner
It's the same thing.
Exactly the same thing.
At least with a partner, the partner is an adult who can say, hey, back off, I have needs too. The child doesn't know. So the child will be used as an instrument of your emotional toxicity and lethargy without having a voice to say, hey, this doesn't feel right, this is your stuff. Children can't do that.
Yeah.
That's why the blind and rampant projection on a child is dangerous.
Yeah.
An adult, at least you can say, well, why didn't you say something? Another adult can tell that adult, why didn't you speak up? Of course, they are inner children themselves, but at least they have the faculty to do so. Children do not even have the faculty to do so.
Totally. And the child is so in the space of, I just want my parents to love me.
Yes.
And accept me.
Yes.
And know that I belong to them.
Yes.
That deeply ingrained sentiment, often as parents, we're not tapped into that's where they're at. And really honor that within
But we can't honor that because we don't recognize that we're coming from the child place of, but you love me. Right. Listen, I had you to finish me.
Yeah.
I had you to make me look good, okay?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know that was the contract, and the children don't know, so that's why it's all messed up.
Exactly.
So my work is about enlightening people to that unspoken contract. Like, own it. You had children for you.
Yeah.
Own it. And so at least your kid knows, oh, okay, I'm going to be used. Let me be used. Let's not pretend it's in the name of love.
I love that. Don't pretend it's in the name of love. Because I was reading your book, The Conscious Parent, and you had said that you would interview parents and ask them why they had children.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for about 6-7 years myself, just being in the state of exploring what I want from motherhood. And one of the most honest answers that I received from a father was, well, I just really wanted to be unconditionally loved, so I had children. I was like, well, at least you're being honest, at least you're being honest about the reason for which you had children. Okay. So I know that we spend so much time, like I know in my work I spend so much time helping people unlearn the things that they learn from their childhood, right?
Yeah.
Unlearn those things. And so what is it that you think that many of us need to unlearn around, and you've already kind of exhibited some of those things, the perception of we're going inwards, all of that, but what is probably one of the main things that you're seeing that we need to unlearn to be a better parent, to be preparing ourselves to be a parent, and even if we're not going to have children, what do we need to unlearn to really evolve as a human? Yeah.
Uber lesson, would be that our sense of worth is going to come from the outside. So because we are inadequate and we come from scarcity, lesser than-ness, right? This is where we all are swimming from inside. We then use our children. When we use our children, we use them to become amazing people, to become happier people, more successful. So we're teaching our children who you are on the inherent internal elemental level is also not good enough. So now they continue on, and then they continue on. And as long as we all operate and spew out this inadequacy toward each other and keep pretending like it's the Botox, it's the money, it's the college, it's the alumni, it's the parties, it's the belonging, then we just keep multiplying and mutating this desire to find worth. the desire to find worth has to actually take us on a different quest, on a quest of internal introspection, internal awakening. But that's unglamorous, right? That's quiet. It's silent, really. It's a deep processing. There's nothing glamorous about it. No trophies, no medals, no showing off on social media. But this is where we need to be going, and we're going down the wrong path. And we keep looking for worth on the outside and teaching our children to look for worth, and we create anxiety in them because they came kind of ready to be worthy. They were okay with themselves at some point. Then they found out, oh, I'm not pretty enough. And then they found out I'm not smart enough. And then they found out, oh, I have to go and find it. I'm not even happy enough. This is not happiness. I have to find happiness. And instead, children especially teach us, because they're the closest to their original self, they teach us how happiness is in the here and now, true presence, true simple living, right? And yeah, letting go of the egoic trappings of the outside world, challenging us, by vomiting on us, by not letting us sleep, by, shaming us in public, by having a tantrum. They teach us, let go of your ego, let go of your ego. Stop looking for worth in the eyes of others.
Yeah, I love that. And the ego is something that is so strong, and it's like chipping away at that, right?
It's the need. It's the inner child that never got what it needed to get from its parents. So now it's created this whole way of doing and being, which is false. It's a false way of living, and a way that only really perpetuates more suffering. So if we want to put an end to our suffering, we have to choose an entirely different way of being. So that's why my books are still in grassroots around the world, because it's not a feel-good quick fix. It is truly changing the direction of the car and finding a new path, which is scary, lonely, and not glamorous. But once you walk this path, you realize it is the path of liberation.
Yes, and it's moment to moment, the presence that it requires. So on a personal note, what is like one thing, I know you have a daughter, what is one thing this week maybe that you experienced with her where you kind of had to practice this whole way of being and living?
I have to practice every day. I'm on my knees every day. She's 13. She's got a bigger mouth than me. So she's like always in my face. There's nothing I can actually project on her. It comes right back at me, and then I hate it, right? So I'm never able to get the one up, and then I become a child, right? Because she always has the last word. She's always right, and she is, 99.9%. She's right, and even when she's wrong, she's right because she's learning. So I see my inner child always going, I'm not getting any dominance here, and I have to check that inner child that wants dominance. And I'm learning every day, thanks to a teenage girl, to release that desire for dominance. Let it go. Let it go. So the other day she had a big sassy mouth, because she's very sassy. And my husband said, oh, what are you going to do about it? And I said, what am I going to do? I'm going to laugh at it. She's funny. She's hilarious. She's so cute. And he said, oh my God, that's like an answer I've never heard. And I laughed. And I said, thank you for the humor. And she was like, she was really upset with me, but she was so funny, And I found that when I released that, there was no more. She had nobody to talk to. And so she ended, and then she came back and said, you didn't have to laugh at me. I go, but you are funny at some, let me laugh. I don't want to yell at you, so I want to laugh. I want to enjoy the humor too of our ego and your ego. And so that's just another way to release. I'm trying to release and teaching parents how to release the need of the inner child to have significance and find significance in a deeper way than through our children's words. A child can roll their eyes at a parent, and the parent is an inner child. How dare you roll your eyes? How dare you? What? This just shows how weak we are, how insecure we are, that a kid can't even roll their eyes at their parent. Is it disrespectful? Maybe. Is it warranted and natural? Absolutely, sometimes. So how can we just step back, understand that it's our inner child wanting something, and we're putting that need on our children. And half the time there's no need for conflict. It's coming from the raging inner child.
Yes, the raging inner child. Yes. Don't we know her so well?
Yes.
And so I want to really emphasize that Dr. Shefali is doing a conference in New York City, where I live, which I'm so excited to attend myself. So I hope you will join me. Can you tell them about this conference, Evolve, it is called, and it's happening in October. So if you can give them the exact dates, and what will they gain from spending a weekend with you? I mean, I've gained so much just in 30 minutes with you, right? To imagine 3 days with you is I'm sure going to shift and transform people's lives. So what would that look like for them?
Well, it's not really a conference, but I know it's hard to find the right
Oh
word. And
yeah, an
I was like, is it
event
a
or
conference? Is it a summit? What is this word? So leaving the word aside, because the word conference somehow means something formal and kind of didactic in a way, where you're passive. This is not going to be that. This is a deeply transformational event. It's a weekend with me as the main leader, and I have some other trusted friends to help us go deeper. But it's just mainly me. 3 hours on Friday, the 21st of October, 8 hours or 7 hours on Saturday, the 22nd, and another 5 hours on Sunday, the 23rd, where I'm going to lead you through a way of thinking and processing where you will deconstruct the old way and truly leave transformed. I did this last year in LA, and the transformational effect was profound. So, I do this for a living, like you do, and I know the human psyche well and understand its language. And I'm here to inspire, uplift, elevate, and transform. And this is what this weekend is going to be about. It's going to be phenomenal. It's a deep dive into what matters the most, your relationship with your children, and then finding out that because of this love for your children, you actually become the best human being that you could be. So, I invite people to come check it out on my website, drshefali.com. There's this video from the old event. You'll see the energy. And if this way of being and thinking resonates with you, you have nothing to lose. It's priced affordably for New York standards. It's 3 days. You get to at least experience and try out something new for the sake of your children. Why not, right? That's what I tell parents. If nothing else, you leave with at least one tool and one technique that could possibly shift the entire dynamic with your child and set them off on a different projection. So this is my invitation to you. It's in New York City, in a beautiful space. You're going to be with me, and together we're going to usher ourselves to a deeper state of awakening.
And I think that what you're doing is just like incredible, because I spend most of my time helping people unlearn the ways that they were suppressed, even oppressed, by their parents. And not that the parents were coming from a space of wanting to do any of that.
No.
It wasn't even from that place. And yet here we are, where I'm helping them open up their blocks to love, like letting that in on a profound level. And so you're getting to the core, the root of where this all starts. And it starts with you. It starts with how you parent. It starts with, even before becoming a parent, how to cultivate this way of being within yourself. And so what Dr. Shefali is up to is super aligned with what I believe in. And I endorse only those people that I think are speaking truth in the world, like universal truth, spiritual truth. And she is absolutely one of those people. So, it is worth it for your relationship with your children, and not only for them, but for yourself, to take out time from your busy schedule to make space for you, to transform and understand where some of these impulses in your relationship with your children are coming from, and why it's creating this frustrating dynamic for you, and where is this dominance playing into your relationship with your children and partnership and within your family. And so she is absolutely, Dr. Shefali is going to walk you through exactly how to shift those things for yourself in a profound way.
And Kavita, I just want to say that, when I said that part about laughing with my child, I don't want people to leave as if I was mocking my child, right? I'm offering a way to connect deeply with our children's essence.
Yes.
Not from a place of dominance and reactivity or enmeshed overprotection and rescuing, right? So knowing our children so well that we know when to enter the dance of humor, compassion, protection, leaving them alone. When is the right response going to emerge? can own that decision making, that ability to discern can only come when we are clear and clean from within, that our needs are not all over the map. So this is what I teach parents, and ultimately to deeply connect with your child's essence so that they look forward, not backward toward you and taking care of your issues in an unconscious way.
Yes. Yeah, because when you said that, I just got hit with you were laughing not at her, right? She may have translated it in that way, but you were laughing at the exchange that was occurring within the moment, and
And I allowed her to find humor in it
in
as
it
well,
too.
right?
Yeah.
Like we're funny people, right? And
Right.
so this ability to have compassionate humor and self forgiveness has to come from the spirit of the parent. So if we parents are constantly raging at our children, they're going to learn only how to have a severe inner critic, which is what you then see later on in life, their inability to receive and accept love, because the inner critic is so strong. So this is what I'm teaching parents. Like if we can break this now, our children will be more flourishing as adults.
Yeah, and on a spiritual level, I just feel like you're strengthening that child's soul, right? You're
Yes, yes,
strengthening their soul to
yes,
be able to be that person that you so deeply desire them to be in the world, way past you being on this planet, right?
yes,
So,
yes. So thank you for having me.
thank you for being here and spending this time with me. It was so nourishing for me to be in this conversation with you. So thank you so much. And everybody go check out drshefali.com. The, the event is called Evolve, and it's going to be a deeply transformational time for you to spend with yourself and to learn from the other people in the room and community, and Dr. Shefali herself, and the people that she's chosen to be there with you over the weekend.
Thank you so much, Kavita.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
my love.
Bye.
Bye.